Hi, this is Angela Clayton, and this is my race engagement dog talk. I'm going to start with the course goals that I want to reflect upon. And the first one of those is reflecting on and evaluating personal beliefs and experiences related to racial issues in educational settings. So, over the course of this semester, and thinking back on the readings and the posts and just all the various ways we've engaged this semester, I've walked away really reflecting on my role as a gifted evaluator and gifted educator and how race and racism play a part in that, and looking at the practices specific to my county and just how we take what the state lays out in regards to assessments in the process, and how we then interpret that and apply it district-wide, and just looking at our practices and asking myself and the team I work on, these practices that we have, these policies that we have in place, are we truly meeting the needs of all of our students in the county? Are we identifying in an equitable way Black and brown students, from lower socioeconomic status, looking at our male-female ratio? Yeah, are we truly casting a wider net? So that has been something that's been ongoing for me professionally. Secondly, recognizing racial prejudice and oppressive institutional structures in education that marginalize some students and privilege others. And this is a this is a hard one, because I feel personally that I do recognize it. But as far as being able to advocate and speak to specifically what it is I'm seeing, that has been a challenge I feel that I've experienced professionally. So going back to, again, some of our course readings and conversations, and like one that stands out to me, the school to prison pipeline, and really being able to pull up those statistics and looking at the practices within the educational system that lead directly to those statistics, and being more informed when I am speaking with fellow educators, regarding our practices. And then planning to promote racial justice and equity in educational settings. And I will speak to this in a few slides regarding gifted education, the Georgia Association for Gifted Children, and then the National Association for Gifted Children, and the work that both organizations are doing as far as racial equity is concerned, and really helping me to see how I can leverage my position and my voice for those who are being underrepresented, underserved, underidentified within the gifted educational realm. Future goals: encouraging and participating in more courageous conversations. The courageous conversations were amazing and powerful and tough. And it was the level of vulnerability that I saw that really kind of caused me to step back and ask myself, am I encouraging these types of conversations? Am I a closed door? Is my approach beneficial, or helping to develop these? And I don't know that I always do. I know that I don't. I can be pretty assertive and pretty like, okay, this is what it is, and that's not a courageous conversation. That's one-sided. And really working on listening versus speaking, and really hearing what's being said. And then also becoming better informed about the impact of race and racism within the educational system. I do feel informed in some regards. My eyes were opened this semester to you don't know what you don't know, um, and just the various ways that race does impact school and education throughout the country, just nationwide. So I don't want to be so quick to speak and want to do a better job of listening and learning. Now, jumping to those courageous conversations, I listened to I felt that the microaggressions and their impact. And that one panel was amazing and really engaged the entire time. I really liked what Dr. Jackson said about what microaggressions are. And it's like that drop of water that keeps drip, 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 drip. And that initial drip, no big deal. Second drip, no big deal. But when you keep having the same thing over and over and over again, and then how that just wears on you and can beat you down. And then Nirvana took it and used the analogy of the Grand Canyon and just how over a really large amount of time, how water created this canyon. And thinking about microaggressions in that way, it was like the aha light bulb moment for me. I'm like, that's exactly what it is. Because one, just hearing one comment about your hair, or there was even like comments about, job performance and being on time to work and just things of that nature. Well, one, doesn't really do that much. Two, after a while, you maybe get a little annoyed hearing the same thing. But over and over and over again, it does. It starts wearing on you. And I don't remember which panelist it was, and please forgive me, but there was one that really talked about advocating for ourselves and speaking up and knowing our worth. And that just having permission to do it and being okay with doing it and then encouraging one another to do it. That was also a powerful moment within that conversation. And that's one I plan to share with with some of my girlfriends and just family members, because we do have those side conversations, those informal conversations, but being able to kind of look at this in its totality and just all the various examples that were given and just seeing the strength in these women who look like me, whose experiences are similar to mine, and just knowing, okay, I'm not alone. And here are some takeaways for me personally, but then taking that and thinking about our students. I'm in my 40s. I get it. I know, I understand what's happening in the moment now. Whereas at 10, 11, 12 years old and you're developing your identity and there's constant conversations about your hair if you're a young Black lady, young Black female, and just having to always explain and defend and it becomes this, okay, am I going to embrace this or am I going to hide it or try to assimilate? And that's just one example. And we've just how I can do a better job of not just worrying about myself and advocating for me, how I can advocate for young girls who I know their experience in their walk. So that conversation really has really sat with me. And I've got to be a little selfish in the conversation that I got to participate in with my classmates, Corey, Layla, and Lou, the gatekeeping, decision-making, and race matters and testing intelligence and achievement. And that panel was just mind-blowing, very honest. There was no holding back regarding testing, and even having there was some discussion about giftedness and testing for giftedness and can you test for intelligence and what have you. And Dr. Latz and Billings, is a powerhouse. I knew she was amazing. Now I'm like, wow, she's even that much more amazing. And when she talked about her travels internationally and how gifted is something that's done here in the United States and not internationally, it really, and I still believe in what I do, but it's definitely caused me to step back and really reflect on what I do, and is it helping to widen the gap? Am I a part of the problem versus the solutions? And so it's something that I'm still in deep reflection about. It's, I don't know that I'll come to some aha epiphany moment. I hope that I don't, so that way I'm continuing to work and fight the good fight. And then two organizations in regards to targeting engagement and racial equity, and I kind of spoke about both of them earlier a little bit. And that is the first being the Georgia Association for Gifted Children. That's one I'm actually actively involved in right now. I'm part of a coalition that is working on access and equity for better identifying underrepresented children for the gifted program statewide. I am a part of the resources group where we're actually looking at how we're identifying our students, what assessments we're using, how they're being used, what are we doing with that data. So it's definitely, it's extensive. It's a lot of work in progress. We've not come to any definitive conclusions yet, but it is one that sparked some great conversations among gifted educators who are also working within this coalition. So that's one I'm really excited about. And being a member of NAGC, the National Association for Gifted Children, the professional learning is incredible. And so if you're not a member, I do encourage you to become a member. Might be able to get your district to pay for it. I'm still in the learning phase. I've been in this role for 5 years. I've been teaching gifted children for, 15 plus years. And I think I've just gotten to a point where I'm like, there's a lot I need to learn. And so I'm using that professional learning tab and kind of going through a lot of those articles and the research that's been done. My hope is to attend a national convention. I know that the one coming up this year is in Disney, which I'm like, well, that's a win-win. So this is just where I am after this semester. I feel like I've learned a lot, but I think in learning a lot, I now recognize I've got a lot more to learn. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing y'all in future classes.